Today, I'm going to show you how to animate any view inside of .NET MAUI or Xamarin.Forms with just a few lines of code with the built-in animation framework, which is extremely powerful to do simple animations and fully customizable custom animations. So tune in. Hey everyone, I'm James and I'm back with another 101 beginner series video, this time talking about animations in .NET MAUI and Xamarin.Forms. Now there are a lot of great helper libraries out there like the Community Toolkit and Xam Animations and a bunch of other ones that give you these helper methods to do animations, but sometimes it's great just to know how you can do animations with what's built into the box. That's what I like to show you inside of these videos. So that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to take a look at animations. So let's check it out. So I created a very simple view here, which has a button that you want to click to load some data and animate this spinner. Now the spinner is a label and it's using Font Awesome icons. I have a video, I'll put it up over there, that shows you how to use icons inside of fonts anywhere in your application like I'm doing here. So what we want to do is animate this thing. So maybe we want to spin it 360 degrees. That would be pretty cool. Or maybe you want to translate or fade or scale different views inside of your application. So we can do that with built-in animations. So let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do first is add a clicked event here on our button. So let's animate it. So here's our new button event. And what we're going to do is we're going to say label load dot, and we can do a bunch of cool things such as fade to, we can fade to, we can rotate to X, Y, or just rotate whatever we want. Normally the X and Y together, the normal rotation in a circle. For example, we can do relative rotate to, we can do scale to. There's all of these things all built in automatically that are extension methods on every single view in .NET MAUI and Xamarin.Forms. So they're just on the base visual element class, okay? So this is really cool. So let's say we wanted to .fade to 0, and then we could say over how long, so let's do over 1 second, and then we can give it an easing. And easings are cool because they are how the animation occurs. Like how do you scale from 0, from 1 to 0? What is that scale like? Is it linear? Is it cubic in? Is it bouncing in? Is it sine, spring? There's all these different animations in. So let's do linear. So this just means it'll go from 1 to 0. So our current opacity, which is 1, to 0 linearly. All right. Now this is asynchronous, which means we could chain these things together. So we could say await on here and mark this as async. All right. And then we could say, after you're done with that, let's fade it back up to 1. We could also then say, hey, let's scale to 2.0, maybe 2.0. And let's scale as well back down to 1.0. But let's do that with a bounce in and then a bounce out animation. So we can kind of see a few different animations here. So this is going to do just what I described. It's going to fade to 0, fade to 1, normal opacity, scale up and scale back down. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like on our Android emulator here. So go into animations, hit animate, fades down, fades up, scales up, bouncing, and scales back down. So you can play around with those easings. They're kind of cool, right? That one bounced in all the way up to 1, right? And then it went back down. So you can do all sorts of really cool animations, including translation. So if you wanted this to zoom in from -500 to wherever it's at now, you can go ahead and do that and chain those animations up. But what if we wanted to play those animations together? For example, we may want to fade to 0 and scale up. And then we would probably want to do something like fade to 1 and scale back down. So this is where it kind of gets a little quirky, okay? So what we would want to do is sort of chain together these animations. So instead of awaiting on fade to, I know it's asynchronous, just do it. And that will basically say fade to 0 right now, and then also scale, all right? And then what we could do here is we could then say fade to and scale to. So that's one way of doing it. Now you might be saying, James, okay, like that's not the greatest thing I've ever seen in the world. How can you fix that up? Okay, well we can use .NET and C#. So we could say var, let's say A1 equals fade to, var A2 equals this, and let's do this. We'll do var A3 equals that, and then say var A4 equals that. So now we're just assigning variables. And now what we could do is we could say await task dot win all here. So creates a task that will complete when all are there. So there's win any and win all. So let's do this, and we're going to say A1, A2. Okay. And then we can do the same thing here. We can just chain these up, and we can say A3, A4. All right. So wait when all those are done. All right, so that's a better way of doing it. So if you don't want to have those squiggles under there because you didn't await on it, now we're actually going to play these together. They're going to run together. The magic of the task parallel library over here to fade these in and out. So let's check it out. I love the TPL. So here, it's going to fade up and then fade back down. Fade up together and fade back down together, which is super duper cool. I mean, that's just a few lines of code to be able to fade up and scale down. And of course, I'm applying it to a specific control, but you can make this very generic. You could make it so you pass your view into your view model on a button click command and then animate that view, right? You can do that. You can create extension methods to really, make this really, really cool. Now, let's say we wanted to rotate this thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say await, then I'll say label load dot rotate to. And we know it's at 0 because that's the default, and we can rotate it to 360 degrees. We can do it over a second, and we'll do easing of linear. All right, let's just do that. So now instead of fading and scaling and things like that with these simple animations, we're going to rotate it. So let's go ahead and now boot this back up, and let's rotate this view. So over here, we're going to go into our animations, and sure enough, we rotate. If I click again, we don't rotate. Well, that's because we never reset the rotation to 0. 360 is 0, right? But it needs to know how to reset itself. So let's reset it back to 0 when that's done. So here I could say label load dot rotation, and we could set it equal to 0. All right. So we can reset it to the beginning of our animation that we want to play over here. So let's now go ahead and boot that up and see what this looks like. And we should ideally get our animation, not bad, looking pretty cool as it animates around over 1 second. Of course, we could adjust that. We could speed up those rotations and zoom it in if we want it to be, slower to faster. We could play around with those things over and over again. But you may be thinking to yourself, well, James, you sort of did these animations on demand. What if you want to sort of not necessarily react to an event like a button click, but you want to respond to something happening in the view model? Like I click a button, it makes a web request, and I want to spin for as long as humanly possible. Well, you can do that with the built-in .NET MAUI and Xamarin.Forms animations using animation. So that's really cool. You can actually create a custom animation to do this, and you can tell it when to start and when to stop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and we're going to go into our animation page, and we're going to, we don't need this button click. We're going to get rid of a button click. We're going to delete all this code here. Fantastic. And what I've done inside of my image cache view model over here is I've created a long refresh command, refresh long command that does this. It sets is busy to true because I'm going and getting data. I'm delaying 5 seconds. So we want to animate for 5 seconds. And then what we want to do is say is busy equals false. So that's our flag that we're going to use here to do some animations. So let's go back to the view, and instead of doing a button click, let's do a command binding to refresh long command. All right. And then let's go ahead into our code behind. And what I'm going to do is I've got our instance of our view model over here, and just whatever our binding context is. And what I'm going to do is we're going to respond to our property changed event. So whenever that property changes, we want to see if isBusy is true or isBusy is false and respond accordingly. So what are we going to respond with inside this view? Well, I'm glad everybody asked. And we're going to do that with another instance here of an animation. So I'm going to say read only animation. It's a class built into Xamarin.Forms and .NET MAUI. And we're going to call it rotation. Okay, so we're going to rotate this 360, reset it, and loop it. That's what we want to do. So when I create this animation over here in the constructor, I can just say new animation, and there is an overload that takes in a callback of what you want to do, what values you want to basically animate from start to finish. So for instance, here, the default is animate from 0 to 1, but you can also give it an easing and even a finished action right here too. So here's what we want to do is we want to come in and we want to give it a callback. So we're going to say value, I'm going to say V, and I'm going to say that what I want to have happen whenever this thing changes, I want the label load.rotation to be set to V. All right. Then what I want to do is I want to start that at 0, and I want to animate it to 360. And I want that easing to be linear over here. Now we can set the finished action here, but we're going to do that actually later when we start the animation. So you can decide when you want to do that here, but that's it. We're going to say animate from 0 to 360 linearly. We haven't told her over how long yet, but whenever those values change, we want to go ahead and update this rotation. Okay. So that's our rotation animation. And now what we're going to do is say if E, that's coming in our property changed event right here. We're going to say e.property name equals, and I can say name of vm.isBusy. Whenever isBusy changes, we're going to adjust to it. So we're going to say if vm.isBusy, let's animate. Okay. Else over here, we're going to say stop. Okay. So we're actually going to do this. So let's do the animation first. The animation is we're going to commit a new animation to occur right now. So I'm going to say rotate, a rotation, I should say, is the name of the animation. And I could do things like add, and there's like queryable, there's all a bunch of different things. There's inserting animations, you can chain things together, but we're just going to commit a new animation here. And there's a few things that are built into here. It's kind of like cut off here on the screen. So I'm going to kind of walk through what is in this. So if I actually go to definition here, we should see that animation has commit, and it's going to take in an owner of iAnimatable, a name, a rate, a length, an easing, and then it's going to have 2 callbacks. The first one is, what do you want to have happen when this thing is finished over here? So that's what this is going to be passed in here. And then a function if you want this to be repeated. So it's a function because you may want that to be called every single time and change. So you might want to say is true, is false over and over. So here's what we're going to do. So now we're going to fill this in. So we're going to commit it, and the animator is the page. So luckily for us, every content page in Xamarin.Forms and .NET MAUI is iAnimatable, which is really cool. We're going to give it a name, and it's going to be rotate. So you can, that's a constant name. That's how we're going to stop the animation later. There's a rate property, and I'm just going to leave the default to 16. So that's how often it updates. But we are going to say, hey, animate that over 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. We're going to give it an easing of linear. And then here's where these 2 animation actions come in. One is finished over here. So this is called when the animation is finished, and it passes us a value and also this Boolean, which I'm not exactly sure what it does. I have to look up exactly what it does, but it gives us this action to return over here. So what do we want to have happen? Well, when it's finished, we want to reset it, just like we reset it manually before. So we're going to say label load dot rotation set it equal to 0. Now you can do a bunch of things in here. You might want to store that value. You might want to do different things with it, but you might want to see where it's at, but we're going to set it to 0. Then what we want to do is see if it needs to repeat. And for this animation, I'm going to say, hey, always repeat it over and over again. I don't even care if things are going. It's like if it's running, repeat it over and over again. But you may want to create custom animations that play like 2 times or 3 times or 4 times and track that. But for this, since it's spinning, go, go, go. All right, let's go ahead and stop the animation. This one's super simple. On the content page, I can say this dot, and I can say abort animation, which is part of iAnimatable. So here, all it does is take in the name, which is rotate. That's it. So if it's busy, commit the animation, which is going to start from 0 to 360, update every 16, over 1 second, linearly. And then when it's finished, reset the rotation to 0 and start it over again. Seems pretty cool. That is literally 1, 2, 3 lines of code to do a custom animation inside of .NET MAUI and Xamarin.Forms. So let's check this out. Now inside of our animation view, sure enough, if I animate for 5 seconds, it is spinning over and over and over again. There we go. Over and over and over again, which is pretty cool. Now, if I wanted to, I could come into the page. And for example, what I could do here is I could say is visible, and I could say binding is busy. So only show it if it is busy. I could also do, for example, is visible, or maybe I'll just do like is, maybe not is visible, but enabled here. And I could say binding is not busy. Now, is busy and is not busy, if you're wondering, are coming from this view model base class, which is part of MVVM helpers, this base view model here. So what's nice about this is that it has an is busy and an is not busy that are automatically set for us. So when I set is busy, is not busy is also updated for us too. So that is a nice way of basically enabling and disabling and showing different UIs based on when you're playing animations or loading data. So let's go over here and let's go into our animations. Click, I can no longer click it. And when it's done, sure enough, it comes right back. Boom. I could do all sorts of different animations in there too. So I can chain different animations together. I can commit all of them back and play them all back over and over again and chain a whole bunch of things together. But I hope you found this pretty insightful, how to create really, really simple animations with a little bit of code, or create your own custom animations using the built-in goodness of .NET MAUI and Xamarin.Forms. I'll link to those other repos and blog posts that show more advanced animations on how to create custom classes and more MVVMify it, if you will. But I hope that you found this really helpful in your journey in mobile and desktop development with both .NET MAUI and Xamarin.Forms. Of course, I have an entire Xamarin.Forms and .NET MAUI 101 beginner classes all here on YouTube. If you like any of those videos or this video, give it a thumbs up. It would be really helpful for others to find the video. It goes into that YouTube algorithm of goodness. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you want to get more videos. I'd super appreciate that. We also have new members. I'm going to put a list of all the members scrolling down right here that have joined up since we launched the membership just less than a few weeks ago. Really appreciate it. It helps the channel going. I do all these videos in my spare time late at night. I just love talking about this stuff, and I love creating videos for all of you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and